Yeah, this is the Seton Rivals podcast where, yes, each and every week during football season, we get after it. We like to bring you the news, the notes, the stories, the scores, the players, and everything in between. And this past week, all 8 teams hit the gridiron, but unlike a week ago, we did see some teams come up short. 5 wins and 3 losses is the final record. Yeah, the 2 smaller teams, they got after it. They were winners, but everyone else was up and down. We saw some blowouts. We saw some terrific games. It's that time of year where we dive in, and 2 guys who dive in with me. We've got Ralph Amsden and we've got Adam Beadle. And Ralph, yes, indeed, you founded Seton Rivals years ago, and wow, we always talk about that it's come a long way, but just the fact that people are truly vocal about recognizing it, I think it's awesome. It's just something that I'll say that you should be really proud of, which I think you are. But aside from all the football stuff, tell me a non-football thing that you did this weekend. You know how we like to start it off every now and then with anything but sports, because Lord knows we talk a lot of it.
Uh, I don't know if at this point in the year anything I do doesn't involve football. I'm raising chickens, and I found out that one of them has been like getting out and made their own nest elsewhere. So I was moving some things around today and found a giant pile of 20 blue eggs.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, oh, that's where those have been. And that's it. Finding those eggs and football. I've done no other thing. I think maybe I've tried to mow the lawn once. Fall is like, especially with college.
Mm-hmm.
And then my in-laws moved out here now too, and they're big Steelers fans. So they come over and we bought NFL Sunday ticket, and we make the whole thing on Sunday. So it's all football Thursday because I have a JV football player, and then Friday because of everything we do here at Arizona Varsity. Plus, some of the games have been played on Thursday so far this year, and then Saturday that my primary source of income is covering college football, and that's from noon until 2 in the morning. And then you got to get up and watch the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I care nothing about at all, and be very, very invested in Aaron Rodgers at age 42. So it's just football. There is nothing. It's eat, sleep, breathe football right now, and I love it. I do
Sure.
love it. I was laughing because I can't think of another thing.
Well, you talked about the eggs, so that's
Yeah,
cool. That
was
that's
5 minutes of the last 96 hours.
no, that's fair. Adam, yes, I think you have the ability at some point to create something. You're a young guy. You're really getting after it. I see you quite regularly, but I'm going to ask you the same thing. Was there a 5-10 minute period where you were non-football related?
I don't really know. I mean, this weekend in particularly too was filled with football. I went out to the Lake Forest game on Saturday. I know you were there, Brett. One of my buddies from middle school, I would say, Jack Lewis, Hamilton alum, plays for Lake Forest. So we have a big me and a group of my friends that have all been, there's like 10 or 12 of us that have all been friends since 7th grade, and all of our parents are friends and all the siblings are friends. So all the boys came up from, a couple of them were down in Tucson, a couple of them were out of state. Everybody came in and we went to the game. We hung out. We saw him play. We came back to my house, just hung out. And so it was good to, even though we, have been away from each other for 3 weeks, to come back and hang out with each other for the weekend. And, yeah, that was it. I think the only thing non-football related I've done, my roommate who I'm living with right now in college, has never seen any of the Marvel movies. So we've been watching them every single night. We watch one a night, and we've just been going through the order in which they came out. So it's been fun to
Okay.
relive that experience of him getting to see those for the first time. And then he says all these things. And I'm like, dude, just watch, just wait. You'll see what happens. So that's been kind of fun. So that's probably the one non-football related thing I've been doing.
That's fair. No, that's fair. I mean, it's a sport that occupies a lot of our time. I mean, there's a lot going on this time of year, and it's a great time of year, especially for the Seton Catholic Sentinels. Pete Walheim's team finding some offense. Once again, they hang up 30-plus points. Great to see a 36-8 road win at Safford. They improved to 2-1. They jump out to an early lead. They score often. Adam, it seems like this team has found a rhythm since that week 1 defeat.
Yeah, they really are. And I think it's a good thing. And like we talked about, for Seton Catholic, this is a young team that just is figuring out the groove of things. And I think you come in game 1, you've got so many new people. You're just trying to figure out what clicks. And I think getting that win against Santan Charter was a big click. And then now you come in the next week and you dominate on the ground, 243 yards. CJ Levin at 100 of those, a sophomore running back. And then Corey Edwards, another sophomore too, had 14 carries for 95 yards. Still trying to get that passing game going, but there's so many young guys all over the field, and it also looks like their defense. Well, I haven't really seen much of the highlights, but only 38 total tackles in the game, so defense wasn't really out there a ton. So it's or maybe I was looking at that wrong. 19 total tackles. It wasn't even. It's less than I thought it was. 19 total tackles. So good to see that the offense was in control. And again, this is just a Seton Catholic team that's young and continuing to build. So it'll be interesting to see how they continue to develop as the season goes on.
Yeah, that is a good point, just to see what their pace is and how they roll. And yeah, Ralph, it looks like they've got some good pieces in place. I mean, I feel Walheim's in a good place. I mean, the last few years, it seemed like he had been, I don't want to say fighting an uphill battle, but he fought through COVID with the team. They had very few numbers, but now they're starting to get guys coming out, and he's getting a little bit of depth.
Absolutely. And I think that's why being in 3A is so important, because it's really about, it's about depth. You get into a situation where your third and fourth quarter is always a struggle in 4A when, your roster is 40 kids. It can get really, really tough, especially because some of these 4A teams have a ton of investment in football. If you were to look at what Seton Catholic had on the sideline versus Micah Mountain or an Arizona College Prep, it's a different sport. It's a different world. True, it's only 11 on 11, but you could put fresh legs out there on every series if you want to, if you're ACP or Micah Mountain. So I think Seton Catholic is exactly where they belong. I think they're able to compete with teams that are similarly staffed, and you might say that they have an advantage because they have the ability to choose. But private school in Arizona doesn't really work like that when there's so many quality charter schools available, and when you're a Catholic school that exists in the boundaries of the Chandler Unified School District, which has a very good reputation. So it's not like people are running away from bad schooling to get into these private schools, or that Seton Catholic has like Brophy's history or St. Mary's history of winning at a high level. And it's even a slog for St. Mary's at this point. So I think they're exactly where they belong. It's very cool that Gabriel Berber scored a touchdown on defense. That's a thing he's going to remember for the rest of his life. And at this point, you did it once, cool. You did it twice, maybe it's for real. RJ Fogarty with 2 touchdown catches. I think it's fair to say that he's on Star Watch. We're going to be every single week, if we're not spying him on the field on the video feed, or if you're not there in person, then that's where our eyes are going to go when the box score comes out every single time, just like we did with Sloan Sweet last year.
And indeed, a trip to Gilbert Christian happens on Friday night. I believe it's the first meeting between those two schools ever. Should be a good one. The Knights are 3-0. Let region play begin. The Valley Christian Trojans, perfect, absolutely perfect. The only C-Town school that's 3-0. They outscore the Blue Ridge Yellow Jackets 38-24. Jake Peterson's team only put the ball in the air 6 times. Senior running back Caleb Goldman, he rushes for 225 yards, 5 touchdowns. Ralph, we haven't seen a dominant running back performance in a long time from a tailback. Maybe Caden Majericek, but I don't even know if he broke off for 225, especially not with 5 touchdowns. But it's good to see that stud running back in the backfield.
You're right. This is completely new, and definitely new against a Blue Ridge team that has some very, very talented players on the defensive side of the football. And all Blue Ridge does is run. And so Valley Christian decided, like, we're going to host you and we're going to play your brand of football. 8 pass attempts between the two teams for the entire game. And the running back that stood out the absolute most was Caleb Goldman. He goes for 225 on 14 carries. Meanwhile, Carlo Harris, who's a star on the other side of the ball, they hold him to 121 on 26 carries, which is still really, really good. But his longest run was 14 yards. So they kept Blue Ridge from doing anything explosive, and they really beat them at their own game. And we had Asher Hansel, make his college commitment last week, and this week he's okay to just go out, get 2 catches, and block. And that's what you need from your team if they're going to be successful. So shout out to Valley Christian. Huge performance from Caleb Goldman. Long time coming for him too. Best game of his career, and it comes in the 3rd game of his senior year.
Adam, what I like about this victory, it's against a high-quality team. I mean, Blue Ridge is a good team, and that's going to mean a lot when those power points start to shake out in the back part of October and into November.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's nothing more to say than that it's a game that's going to matter. And I think what I really like that Valley Christian's doing is after that first game against Sabino, I think it took them they took some time to reflect and figure out, okay, what worked for us in that game, what didn't. That we really saw a mix of them passing the ball. Schroeder was really getting it going through the air, and then we also saw Goldman getting it done on the ground in the second half. We go in to the next game, and obviously Goldman is the only one who's able to really do anything productive for that Valley Christian team, and they stick to it in the next game against Blue Ridge and get a big win out of it. And Caleb Goldman, actually, with over 500 yards on the year already, is the 103rd national leading rusher in the country. So that's pretty cool to see. And Goldman is certainly setting himself up for a very successful season. And I think that a lot of coaches who are looking for a steal, some Division III coaches, Division II coaches, should really look into Caleb Goldman, what he's been able to do in the ground.
Absolutely. Good stuff for the Trojans. And it's a trip to the West Side on Thursday night. They'll play the 1-2 Dysart Demons, and that's a team that they've never played before. Before we get to our next team, definitely want to just mention in 2 weeks, we'll actually be at Podworks Studios. And I think that is something that is really going to enhance the podcast, where all 3 of us, we are going to be joining you. It's going to be terrific. Just overall, just the quality, what they're going to bring is going to be good. Just kind of a change of scenery. Yeah, it's going to be good. And hopefully that's the first of multiple episodes that we'll get to do over the course of the season. This next team, the Arizona College Prep Knights. I haven't had this much fun at a high school game in a long time. It was just a different type of energy. I mean, it was family friendly. It was just purple and black all over the place. Final score, ACP 19, Desert Mountain 15. And I think so many of us thought, okay, the Wolves, they're going to come in. Maybe ACP can keep it close. But, guys, I'll tell you, ACP got the ball first. They drove the length of the field on that first series. Yeah, they missed a field goal, but the fact that they kept the ball for almost 8 minutes, it showed that, okay, hey, we're going to control this line of scrimmage a little bit. We're not getting pushed around. And, Ralph, 3 things jump out at me defensively. The physicality that the Knights showed, it surprised me a little bit. I mean, from a skill position standpoint, yes, we know that Sanchez and Heinrich, they've been together for a while. So, yeah, they can probably perform at most levels. But that defense, it stepped up. On paper, I think it was only 24 rushes for 37 yards. But throw that out the window because ACP converted when they needed to. I think Diaz had just 1 carry for 4 yards. But I want to say that carry was like on a 3rd and 2 and really exchanged for a big-time conversion. And then lastly, Heinrich, yeah, he threw for over 300 yards. It didn't seem that way. I'll say that in a good way. He was hitting some shorter passes. Yeah, he had a couple of bombs, but it was a controlled atmosphere. Heinrich was in charge. I mean, they did everything that they were supposed to do. And props to Derek Zellner. He was doing his little dance in the post-game huddle, and he was like, hey, I'm going to stop doing this before I pass out. He was excited. I was excited. Just fun all the way around.
I think I said this game was going to be like a rude awakening or a wake-up call or something like that. Like
we all did.
Which is fine. Like I was trying to stress that it wasn't like yeah, you're going to come here and you're going to get your teeth kicked in and you're going to get humbled. It wasn't a matter of humility. It was a rite of passage. And now a win like this makes me delusional. Like I'm like, wait a minute. Our 6th best district team is better than your king, Scottsdale, your king.
Right. That's right. Here we go.
And, I don't know if Desert Mountain's actually better than Saguaro or Chaparral this year. But that's how I felt. That's how I felt after you tweeted the final score to that game. I was just like, oh, it really, like, I know that in this podcast for years and years and years, we made it about this city. And yeah, is the crown in the West Valley right now, as far as an individual team? Yes, that's fine. It's been that way. Ahwatukee has come in, Saguaro has come in. They've earned it. They've absolutely earned it. But as a city, there is nothing like Chandler. If ACP is going to defend home field against Desert Mountain, that's it. There wasn't a debate before. It didn't exist. But if anyone wants to have it now, they're going to have to be committed, because this was that big. This made me want to like spike the football a little bit. Not that I don't love all like Arizona high school football, but I'm from Chandler. I played in Chandler. We recognized that the city was special, which led to the start of this website, which opened us up to be able to cover the whole state. I'm not going to hide my bias here. So yeah, what a win. Heinrich again, protecting the football. At this point, he's whatever the most positive description of game manager can be.
That's
and
right.
He's going to go down in this high school's history as a legend. It's very cool. Now, like, what's the ceiling for ACP? I was worried they weren't going to be a 5A playoff team.
Correct. Adam, I mean, you and I, we talked a lot about this on Saturday, and I mean, it's just special. I mean, something you clued me into, just that buy-in from that Derek Zellner has kind of achieved in a very short amount of time. I mean, the team is at some serious heights. I mean, it's just great. It's I don't even want to call it a feel-good story, because there's a lot more to this story, I feel like, over the course of the next few months. But it's just so great to see.
It's honestly incredible. And you talked about the buy-in that we talked about on Saturday on the AZ Preps 365 Saturday morning show. And the more I think about it, the more I just think it's crazy. And I've mentioned this time and time again. Brett, you and I have talked about it, how going into this season, before Zellner took this job at Arizona College Prep, he was considering retiring. So the fact that he comes here instead of retiring and still says, I'm going to give this my all, and not, play it any looser or not care as much because, I might almost be done at the end of my coaching tenure. He says, no, we're going to go all in. We're going to try to do this thing. And I think all of us can agree that we owe a slight bit of an apology to ACP for downplaying the fact that they might not be as successful at the 5A level, because this was not the case at all. Because Evan Heinrich came in and he balled 324 for 2 touchdowns, 70% completion percentage. Yes, they weren't able to get it going as well on the ground. But Brett, like you mentioned, you look at that stats and you watch the game, and it's 2 totally different things. And I think also the physicality from the defense as well, with the amount of tackles that they got. I'm kind of just blown away by this ACP performance and by how much they've surprised me. And now I look at their schedule, right? You've got a matchup coming up against at Chaparral. That's going to be a tough matchup. This is a Chaparral team that played a very good first game, contested with Saguaro. Then you got to play Sunrise Mountain at home. And then you play a Gilbert team who just knocked the rails off McClintock. And then you have a game on October 3rd at Mountain Point. And if you think about it, Mountain Point becomes a way better team on October 3rd. They get a ton of transfers, guy like Makai Nelson. You get a guy like Makai Hodge coming in. This October 3rd game with ACP at Mountain Point could be the biggest game in ACP history besides last year's 4A state championship.
What a difference a week makes, huh?
Right. No, that's right. I mean, they got us all fired up. I mean, it's it's just fantastic. It is great to see. I mean, it's It's terrific. I mean, a win up in Scottsdale this week would be amazing. I mean, this is a good team. This is a really good team, and they've got a lot going for it, which is just great to see. The Casteel Colts, they fall to Liberty High School of Nevada by a score of 31-13. And I don't have a lot of insight on this game. I mean, I'll say this. It's typical Colt football. They were prepared. There's no doubt about it. They came to play, but in the end, they probably just got beat by a better team.
Yeah, from the people I've talked to that were at this game, it was a lot of, simple mistakes defensively that allowed this Liberty team to get it. And also credit for Casteel to playing out-of-state opponents back-to-back weeks. It's a really difficult thing to prepare for when you don't, you're not consistently playing a team like that. You're not really sure how to approach it based on what they've shown in the past. So credit to Joe Bushman for taking on that challenge, and obviously as well, Casteel still doesn't have a lot of things figured out, and obviously they're still missing their quarterback. They'll get him back after week 5. So I credit Joe Bushman for the job he has done so far. A 1-1 start to the season, getting his team really in the groove of playing football. I think there's still a lot more to come for Casteel. One thing I will throw out there is I know they're going to be missing a vital piece of their offensive line for the next couple of weeks, so we'll see how that plays out. But I think there still is a lot of optimism for this Casteel team that they can turn things around and still be able to get into the 6A playoffs.
That's fair, Ralph. Yeah, they just have to keep going, take the loss, and try to regroup and play as you can, play as best as you can next week.
Yeah, this loss isn't actually that bad, and I'm not sunshine pumping here because a loss is a loss. But think about this: with all of the possessions that Liberty had, just their regular possessions throughout the game, add another 6 possessions to it because that's how many times Casteel turned the ball over.
Wow.
And so you give them 6 extra possessions. They scored 3 offensive touchdowns total. They did return one of those picks for a touchdown. So you give up 4 total touchdowns when you give them 6 extra possessions. You hold a high school football team to under 5 yards a carry. Usually that's going to be good enough. You hold them to 40% completion percentage. Usually that's going to be good enough. You force them to miss an extra point. You force them to miss a field goal. Usually all those things are going to be good enough. But the offense donated to the cause. 6 extra possessions by way of 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles. So it's, the defense and special teams did their part. And this was a 1-score game midway through the 3rd quarter. And then the dam broke. And it broke because Casteel was trying to get back into the football game. They were brave enough to take some risks. They didn't execute on them well. I don't think this affects the rest of the season for Casteel. But there's certainly some concerns there if you let Liberty put some things on tape of exactly how to frustrate this offense. But the thing that Adam has pointed out consistently is consistency. Casteel's probably going to have some moments this year, but are they going to come in a row? And so far, the answer is no.
Absolutely. They've got a tough one on Friday night as they take on the unbeaten Hamilton Huskies. The Chandler Wolves, they lose a tough one to the Dons of Cathedral Catholic, 24-23. Missed extra point was the difference, but Ralph, I'll say they've got a really good junior class. Will Menzel, 319 yards and a touchdown. He also is their leading rusher, which I'm not a fan of when the quarterback is your leading rusher, but he got a score on the ground. Maxwell Sprott, 6 receptions for 137 yards and TD. And then also Jai Jones. Yeah, they've got some juniors, and they're going to make some noise. A lot of talent.
Yes, and they had a shot in this game. They're no stranger to losing games in California. They lost to Corona Centennial before. They've lost to St. John Bosco. This is, you kind of live and die by the close game. They were able to get past Centennial, but when you're playing a team close like this, everything matters, and the extra point ends up making the difference. But that doesn't mean that's what lost the game. You can't put it on one kid missing one kick. So it was a game where Chandler had opportunities late, and the mental Sprott connection is there. Now they just have to be able to couple that with the running game. The best Chandler teams have always been able to run the football. We talked about it for years on here. It's something that we've ranted and raved about. But some teams are not really able to run the ball on. And so, there really is that temptation to pick up big chunks through the passing game. But until Chandler gets back to the days of dominating the line of scrimmage, then they're going to be a contender and not a king. They were the king when they played Perry in the state championship at Arizona State University, and DeCarlos Brooks ran for 300 plus and 6 touchdowns in a championship game, right? You really do have to impose your will. And right now, imposing your will looks like Will Menzel, and that, he can't do everything.
Correct. Adam, yeah, the running game is something that, and I think they will find a running back. The roster is too deep not for someone to emerge. And kind of like Ralph mentioned, yeah, that's something that they will have to find for them to take that next step. But I like what this team is showing so far.
Look, I think the first thing you got to look at is when you play such a tough team in Centennial and then play them close and then have to go on the road, you would expect there to possibly be a little bit of a drop off. And I think the biggest takeaway from this game is that there wasn't. Chandler still played Cathedral Catholic really close. Like we said, it was the field goal that mattered at the end. In terms of the run, I'm kind of on the other side of things because I think that this is more of a loaded group of wide receivers that Chandler has had in the last couple of years. And I think when you have someone like Ty Wisdom who comes in to take over this team and has had success with a loaded wide receiver group in the past, I could see how you integrate it into this system using guys like Jai Jones, Maxwell Sprott. Obviously, we've talked about Skylar Ormita a lot and what he can do in the slot. I think there's so many different creative ways that Chandler can open up their pass game. Is there absolutely an area of need where they should be able to run the ball more efficiently? Yes, but I think this could also be a benefit to Will Menzel and seeing what he can do and open up his rush game, not just for the sake of what he's able to do on the high school football scene, but what that looks like in front of college recruiters as well. I think that's a big step that he's taken from last season to this season. I will say, though, the only thing that does concern me about Will running the ball so much is the issue he did have with those injuries last season. And obviously, when we see quarterbacks start to take off, there's more likely chance that they might, not slide or take a hit that they shouldn't have taken. So that becomes a concern. And now you got to think of, how do I best protect my quarterback and keep my quarterback healthy when he's really doing a lot of things through the air and leading this team and enabling us to have this passing attack. So there's a lot of different areas I think Chandler still has to address, but I think thankfully they play so many competitive teams that that's something that's kind of just going to adjust from a game-to-game basis because of the different opponents that they play on their schedule.
And their next opponent will be the ALA Queen Creek Patriots. They'll meet them for the first time ever. Patriots are 0-2, but yes, they are a quality opponent.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see Chandler go to the air attack in this one. Sure. We saw what Hamilton did to them.
Absolutely.
Right? And obviously, I think if there's any game, I think we look at the Hamilton game, clearly a Skylar Cole coming out party. If we see any game where Chandler's going to be able to discover where their run game might be, it'll be this week against ALA Queen Creek. But I'm also not going to be shocked if they go through the air and Will Menzel has, over 300 passing yards.
Absolutely. No, it's whatever they need to do to win. I mean, you use your strength, you use the game plan, all of that stuff is in the end, it is about getting that W. The Perry Pumas, they fall to 1 up and 1 down on the year after dropping a 27-20 contest to Granite Hills High School out of El Cajon, California. I'll say, Adam, it seems like El Cajon took control in that mid to back half of the second quarter. The one guy you told me about who had a good game defensively, Ricky Stewart. I mean, he is a beast. He certainly is getting the job done. He was the Pumas' leading tackler.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this Perry Puma defense is really kicking into gear about their identity. And Ricky Stewart, Trace Waddell, I think, is another player that's really stepped up for Perry. You got several guys playing both sides of the ball: Amos Augustine, Talon Frazier. You also got guys like Justin Stella, who are making big impacts in their last year. But I want to know more from Ralph, because he was very particular about the Perry offense and them being able to do things offensively and really just construct as a whole. And we haven't really seen that much major flow from this Perry offense this season. It's been fairly inconsistent for the most part.
You are correct about that. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but something happened in that Brophy game last year that kind of set this offense awry. If you just go back the last 3 games for Cale Snyder, this is a Division I recruit. You have 49% completions over that 3-game span, 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, and only 129 passing yards per game. That's not where Perry wants to be. That's not where Perry's going to be strong. That's like Iowa Hawkeyes football. That works if you are 6 deep in running backs and 3 deep in every 5 position of offensive line. That's gonna make a 3-point win feel like a 40-point win because you ran it down somebody's throat. Then your 130 passing yards that you average a game comes out of more of a necessity to keep the defense honest or being opportunistic. In against Granite Hills, the longest pass play was 25. They had 4 passes over 15 yards, but really outside of that, weren't able to get anything done. And you incomplete pass on 1st and 2nd down, you put yourself in a 3rd and long situation, and the defense can kind of plan for what you're doing. So what are you doing to set your quarterback up for success, to maybe have some 2nd, 3rd and short situations? And he's also not, it's not like he's out there running like a lot of high school quarterbacks are. So, they got to find a way. Right now, it really feels like they're manufacturing points. Like I had a friend as a kid who would always say, anytime that we made anything harder than it needed to be, he would always say, we don't have to make a project out of everything. And right now, a lot of Perry's drives kind of feel like projects. There's not a lot of huge chunk plays or displays of athleticism or, runs to the outside that go for forever. They're really having to work to get their points right now. And I'm sure that it's a work in progress, but you end up in a position where you're playing Brophy next, and that looks like the team that broke you.
Yes.
Do they still have your number? Is it going to be more of the same? I think it creates a lot of pressure on Perry to go out there and show that they can move the football. And it's a tough game to have to do that, but we got a blueprint from Basha, and maybe you don't have some of the same players in the same positions that Basha does, but that game was 42-6. I'm sure there's something on film that you can use to help you out. But I think I've said on this show before, I got a phone call after that Brophy game last year from somebody affiliated with Brophy, and it's just they were just
we're talking about the regular season, Brophy, the first
the postseason one and the regular season
one, yeah.
Where they really felt like some of the things that Perry was doing were easy for them to key in on. And Brophy is a team that has struggled with consistency. So you don't necessarily like hearing things like that. And it's not like it was from the head coach himself. Jason Jewell's definitely a lot more respectful than to be messaging me about what's going on. But I just think that if everything is a sled for Perry, then it's going to be a really, really long season. You want to see this offense get going.
Absolutely. And this is a big one. Both teams are 1-1, and it's one of those things where, somebody's going to be 1-2, but you obviously would rather be 2-1 at this point, because going into the season, it seems like both teams are kind of on that cusp of that 8-9 slot of, all right, hey, are we going to get a home game potentially in this newly revamped open style? So, it's a big game, but indeed, Brophy and Perry getting after it. Yeah.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out because Justin Stella's at 18 solo tackles through 2 games. So, I mean, they got defenders out there putting in the work. Let's reward them.
I think that's the biggest thing that Perry's going to have to rely on. I think what they're going to need to do against Brophy in particular is find a way to force some turnovers. And that offense is going to need to really convert on almost every single one of them. I think that is the key to win this game. We've seen what how their defense can apply pressure, and now how can you force Brophy to get rid of the ball and give it back to you and make the most of those opportunities.
We will see against the Broncos. Yes, big contest. The Hamilton Huskies, they blow out Sandra Day O'Connor 62-14. Ralph, I don't even know what to say. I mean, Jax Sculley to Roye Oliver, not once, not twice, but 6 times. That's crazy. 220 receiving yards from Sculley, who had 252 passing yards. I would have loved to have seen the ball be spread around a little bit more, because it does seem that they have that ability to find guys downfield. But here's the crazy thing. They have not scored back-to-back 60-point games since we've been doing this podcast. They've had a 70-point game. They've had a couple of back-to-back 50-point games, but back-to-back 60-plus, that's over-the-top impressive. I mean, this Huskies team is they're serious. They really are.
They might have a top 5 running back in the state. They might have a top 5 receiver in the state, probably a top 3 class of 28 player overall, maybe 2 of them when you throw in what Jax Sculley has been able to do. The offensive output in the first 2 weeks is just absurd, and they deserve a ton of respect for what they've been able to do. We've talked about it on this show before. I think Roye Oliver is, it's been a minute since we've had a 5-star wide receiver in the state of Arizona. Do you know the last one?
Is it Nikhil?
No, I know. Is it Deuce Robinson?
Deuce, I believe, was a 5-star on one service and a 4 on another. Nikhil was a 5-star, and Christian Kirk. And in my time doing this, that's it.
Wow.
It's those 3. And that's, and I think that's what Roye Oliver is going to command as well. And because it's not just ability, it's production. And some of these guys get that rating based on ability. Like, anybody could have walked in a room and saw N'Keal Harry and said that's a 5-star. In fact, I was there when that happened. It was at camp in Las Vegas, and Mike Farrell, who worked for Rivals at the time, said that's what a 5-star looks like. And coming out of that camp, that's exactly what N'Keal Harry was. Deuce Robinson is another easy one, especially when it comes with the production that it did. When you're a guy like Christian Kirk, you have to dominate in such a manner at the size that he was at to garner that. And that's what Roye Oliver is doing right now. DJ Foster, Christian Kirk type domination. And it's very cool to see.
It is. It really is. Adam, it seems like, at least for now, the only team that could beat Hamilton is Hamilton. I mean, they're just clicking.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to put it. And I think sky's the limit for this team, honestly. What Jax Sculley and what Roye Oliver have been able to do together. And you look at the defensive side of the ball and all the other young guys they have coming up that are making plays. And I think only one of the Jandros has been healthy. So I think there's just still so much room for, not that the Huskies haven't been doing anything good, because they absolutely have been, but I feel like there's still so much more Hamilton is capable of doing that we haven't even seen yet. So I think it's really time to start talking about Hamilton locking in a spot on being one of those Final Four open teams.
Definitely. I certainly agree. And they will host the Casteel Colts on Friday night. Last but certainly not least is another team that is expected to have one of those Final Four 4-seed bye spots in the open. The Basha Bears. They top Orange Lutheran 30-24, and Orange Lutheran certainly one of the better teams in the country, actually, not just in California. The Bears hold on. They were up 24-0. It was 24 apiece, and Basha was able to score last. Josh Gaines was a big part of it, Adam.
Yeah, Josh Gaines is a dude, continues to prove why he deserves to be one of the top players in the state of Arizona, and a very under-recruited guy that I think a lot of schools should start doing some research on and really figuring out who this kid is, because he has been the driving force for Basha this season. And the Bears, I think, a little concerned that you have such a big lead going into halftime and you let the team come back in, but I think at the end of the day, they figure it out. Brody Veers got his team moving, got them clicking, got them going down the field. I think going into this week, though, is the bigger question. I think this Williams Field team, who we know has a very skilled offensive line, is going to pose the biggest threat for this Basha front this week. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And I think I don't want to call this a trap game because I don't necessarily think it is, but I think Williams Field is going to end up being the team that is going to give Basha the run for their money the most in the first half.
Wow, good stuff. No, that makes sense. Ralph, indeed, yes, Williams Field will pose some problems in the trenches, and that 6A is a gauntlet.
It is, and I think that this game is important for a lot of reasons. Number one is that Williams Field was sort of a media darling headed into the season. A lot of this comes from people who have seen this team in person, people I respect, people who know ball. When a team hasn't necessarily been out being world beaters, and then all of a sudden everybody's in on a team heading into a season, then you know that there are special things about that team that people have seen in person. Are we going to see it in practice? Or are people going to get brought to a different reality, right? Is Williams Field able to hang with Basha? Because if they're not, then you just tick one more off of the list of potential competitors once November comes. And so, for Basha to hear things like this of like, oh, you just took down Orange Lutheran, that had 4 and 5-star players, and you built a 24-0 lead on them. And the only reason that you had to do a game clock management drive at the end is because, you started to kind of fumble the bag a little bit there at the end, which, as an aside, I want to say, Brody Veers, I do not care. I don't care about that pick six. That he was throwing some balls that might necessarily not be super advisable when you're just trying to squeeze out a lead at the end of the game. He was still out there throwing deep out routes. I think that's awesome. That is that's a winner's mentality, and you have to live with some of the mistakes that come with that. But they got themselves in a hole and they dug themselves out of it. Those things will be important later on down the line. But now you got to turn around. You're coming off the huge high of this big win. You have TikToks going mega viral of you guys sending them back to California, with a boot in the ass. And are you going to get high on your own supply? Are you going to get to the point where you're not necessarily focused on the task at hand, and Williams Field is able to sneak in there? And obviously people are saying they have a lot of talent. Could they be the one to give you trouble? Or are you who you are at all times? Awesome opportunity for Williams Field. Great opportunity for Basha. It's not up there with Perry Brophy as far as questions getting answered for me this week, but it's definitely one I have my eye on.
Absolutely good stuff. No, and there we have it. We've touched on all 8 teams. Just a shout out to team number 9, so to speak, 2A football. What Coach Chris Ador is doing over at Chandler Prep, the Titans. They were 34-21 winners over Glendale Prep. Really nice junior class over there. Their quarterback, Cody Dodson, he leads the way with over 300 passing yards in that contest. So as we mentioned, we will start to talk about the Chandler Prep Titans a little bit more here and there. Hey, keep on winning, Coach. And yes, you came from ACP. You know what a winner is. You're building one over there. So that is awesome. 2 more things. Again, 2 weeks from now, we will be over at Podworks Studios. That's going to bring a different look to this outstanding podcast. And Adam, props to your alma mater, Hamilton High School, and Jim Catanzaro. They hosted the first ever Division III college football game. It was just really cool to see that atmosphere on Saturday. I'll say it was great to broadcast that game with Cody Cameron. We're all big fans of Cody. Just really terrific seeing so many of the parents out there, and just really, it was a good atmosphere, and the city of Chandler did it right. That's why we love the city collectively, the three of us.
Yeah, I believe that the mayor of Chandler named Saturday National Lake Forest Day or something like that.
He certainly
Very
did.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
so I mean,
indeed.
it's so cool to see the community come out and rally in the city of Chandler, obviously the best city in the state of Arizona. It was cool because of how different it was. It's different from what natives of the state of Arizona are used to, and going to an ASU football game or a U of A football game or an NAU football game. It's a lower level of football that still at times has the same excitement as one of the bigger college football games. It still matters. You can still tell how much it matters to the players and to the coaches, and just credit to everybody involved in putting the whole thing together. I know that my former principal, Jason De La Torre, had a lot to do with putting that all together. So it was very cool. And yeah.
And props to Lake Forest and Coach Cat. I mean, so many people tell the three of us or anybody else in the media, oh, hey, we love what you guys do for Arizona high school football. We love that you cover the kids, this and that. But Lake Forest has handed out scholarships. I mean, half his roster is Arizona kids.
53
that's
kids.
That's a school that is doing a lot for Arizona high school football. And we obviously welcome them back anytime. It was just a fun experience for all. And speaking of fun experiences, yes, Adam, always fun to chop it up with you. Ralph,
I gotta say, I just totally blanked, and I called Mike De La Torre Jason.
Jason, I was waiting.
And I was like, oh wait, no, it gets it so mixed up.
That's
I
a
used
good
to
catch.
I used to just call them both DLT, and it was so much more simpler because I usually didn't see them in the same setting. So
okay, fair enough.
Oh, funny.
It's the thought that counts.
Right? There you go.
Good stuff. We'll see you guys next week. This is the Seton Rivals podcast.